The OSI model, Open System Interconnection Model, is a conceptual framework used to describe the function of a network system. The OSI model characterizes computing function into a universal set of rules and requirements in order to support the interoperability between different products and software. In the OSI reference model, the communication between a computing system are split into the 7 different abstraction layers like physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. Created at a time when network computing was in its infancy. The OSI was published in 1984 by the International Organization of Standardization. Though it does not always map directly to the specific system, the OSI model is still used today as a means to describe the network architecture. So, as I told, the 7 layers. So, these are the 7 layers of OSI model. The first one is physical layer. So, the lowest layer of the OSI model is concerned with electrically or optically transmitted raw unstructured data bits across the network from a physical layer of the sending device to the physical layer of the receiving device. It can include specifications such as voltage, pin layout, cabling, radio frequencies. At the physical layer, one might find physical resources such as network hub, cabling, repeaters, network adapters, or modems. Data link layer. At the data link layer, directly connected nodes are used to perform node-to-node data transfer where data is packaged into frames. The data link layer also corrects errors that may have occurred at the physical layer. The data link layer encompasses 2 layers on its own. The first is MAC and provides flow control and multiplexing for devices transmission over a network. The second was is LLC, Logical Link Network, provides flow and error control over the physical medium as well as identifies the line protocols. The network layer is responsible for receiving frames from the data link layer and delivering from them to their intended destination among best of these addresses contained inside the frame. The network layer finds the destination by using logical address such as IP, Internet Protocol. At this layer, routers are crucially component used to quite literally router information where it needs to go between the application and networks. The transport layer manages the delivery and error checking the data packets. It regulates the size, sequencing, and ultimately the transfer of the data between the system and the host. One of the most common examples of the transported layer is TCP or the Transmission Control Protocol. The session layer controls the conversation between the different computers. A session is connected between machines is set up, managed and terminated as a layer 5. So, session layer services also include authentication and reconnection. The presentation layer formats or translates data for the application layer based on the syntax or semantics that the application accepts. Because of this, it is at times that called the syntax layer. This layer can also handle the encryption and decryption required by the application layer. The application layer, the final one. At this layer, both the end user and the application layer interacts directly with the software application. This layer sees network services provided to end user applications such as such as web browser or Office 365. The application layer identifies communication partners, resource availability, and synchronizes the communication. This is mostly seen in the past, but I want to touch on it here because before we got started, the layer that you see here are frequently referred to is DOS attack. The OSI model of a computer network, or in other words, the open system interaction model, which is a conceptual model that characterized and standardized the communication function of a computing system, and this is all about the logical layer of an underlying internal structure and technology. So think of it as a model that helps to explain how these systems are put together. The relevance to denial of service attacks is that these two of this layer in particular tend to feature for different layers of attacks when we see reference to attack against layer 7. Very often it means the layer against these top 3 layers are included. And indeed there is some of the criticism of the OSI model. So in terms the way represent the segmentation A, and this is a lot of the time when we seek the talk about the layer 7 DOS attack, it may well be against a protocol such as HTTP, and certainly some of the attacks will look at this lecture. So do target the application directly over the hypertext transport protocol. The other layer where we frequently see DOS attack is layer 4, the transport layer, and we particularly see attacks against protocols such as TCP and UDP. Now these are the attacks specifically against the underlying protocols. So what sits underneath and abstraction, which often includes protocols such as HTTP and FTP. So it's a lower level attack against the fundamental level of an application, which then sits on top of it and then runs over the protocols such as HTTP in FTP. We are going to take a really good look particularly at TCP and UDP attacks in this session, or maybe in the future. So let's just have a brief this is just a brief introduction that OSI model, because again we do see many references to a layer 7 and layer 4 for DOS attacks. So I just wanted to really clear about what it meant by these two terms. Now before we start talking about the actual style, so I wanted to look one of the more things and the role of botnet, and we'll talk about feature and both of botnet and DOS attacks.